Okay, let's go to the game. With it. Okay, so the game is Are They Family? And a slide that doesn't have the answer on it is going to pop up, and we're going to decide whether or not we think they are related. Ready, go. Okay, Peyton Manning, Eli Manning.
Even I know the answer to this one.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure.
It could be media hype.
Mm.
No.
We've got a lot of yeahs, so.
Yeah, Andrew, football. I don't think so. Hannah, Ember, no. 7808, I don't know who that is. Yes. Who? Well, send your name in so I can put it in there.
It's coming, it's coming.
Okay. Gabe, thank you, Gabe. Okay, good. I think we don't even need to go to the answer on that one. Okay, next. Are they family? I can hardly see that far. Nicolas Cage and Ninja. Raise your hand if you do not know who Ninja is. Okay, he's a social media influencer. Huh. He probably has more followers than NBC News. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding.
He looks a little.
Okay, what? We got no from Cody. No question mark. Way to commit, Jalen. Riley, no. Jonathan, yes. Ember, no.
Are you allowed to Google it?
No, you can't Google it.
I was just asking for a
No.
friend. I don't know.
No. But I never think of that. We've played games like this before, and people are Googling the answer and getting it. There's no prize tonight because Athena's not here to reward you. So, okay, answer is no. Of course not. That's just weird. All right.
Nicolas Cage is related to a lot of famous people, though.
Is he?
Yeah. I
like his mom and
I would have to Google
his dad?
it, but
I don't believe you.
I'm gonna.
Okay. Okay. Amy Schumer and Senator Chuck Schumer. Well, certainly they have the same forehead. No. They do obviously share a name. I don't know. Lily says yes. Kirsten says yes. Elliot says no. Ezra, they have the same nose. Oops, yes. Oops, yes. Is that like commentary of why they are? Like, oops, yes?
Somebody I'm going to guess Googled.
They have the same nose. Yeah. Okay, answer is yes. Same name.
Cousins. Wow.
Come on, same name. It's got to be. If you've got the same name, if your last name is Smith, you're related somehow.
Somewhere.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, next. Prince Charles and Voldemort.
They're both British.
They definitely have the same forehead.
I feel like this is a yes, actually.
Because it's so odd?
Yeah, it's gotta be. But we're getting a lot of no's. Definitely from Ezra. Yes, from Hannah.
Same nose, Ember. Nice. I mean, used to before it got fried off, but yeah. No.
It's pretty split here, people.
Yeah, it looks like 50-50. Should be. They should be. Why, Whitney? Why should they be? Where are you? Just because you want it to be? Yeah.
They
Nice.
both need coffee, Ezra said.
They both want coffee.
Yeah.
That's what makes the world go round. All right, answer is they're
Eighth cousins.
eighth cousins.
They're both British, so there has to be some.
Yeah.
Ray
You know, basically, if you're English, you're all related. That's just what
Everyone goes back to Noah.
I know, but you know, sort of, kind of.
We are all related in some way.
Yes. 19 million
Eighth cousin is,
second cousin
it's kind
removed.
of pushing it, but I guess since it's royalty, that matters.
Yeah,
somewhere.
sure. All right, next. Weatherman, Al Roker, and Drake. Raise your hand if you don't know who Al Roker is. Okay, good. I can believe that. Raise your hand if you don't know who Drake is. Okay. All right. Okay. They smile the same. Nope, no, yes, no. Maybe, but I think no. Come on.
You could put yes, no, and cover both your bases.
Yeah.
You got a 50-50 shot.
Yeah, no. Okay, good. And the answer is no. Way to go. Way to go. You can get your free pizza from Athena. Get it next week, provided we can meet.
Yeah, she's gonna just keep tallying up
Yeah.
prices.
Yeah. You show up. Hey, where's my pizza? What are you talking about? Holy guacamole. Fashion designer Yohio Hamani and Ariana Grande.
I think that's a yes.
We got a yes. We got Hope says no. Jalen, sure. Way to commit there. Kirsten, yes. Jonathan, no. Hannah, yes. Lily, no, yes.
That's brilliant, Lily. That's I think that's a great idea. Cover all
Riley,
your bases.
sure. Way to commit to your answers. Whitney, no. Okay. All right, answer is no. That's just weird. Okay, next.
I bet she wishes she was related to her.
Princess Kate Middleton, Ellen DeGeneres. Do you know who Princess Kate is? Raise your hand. Do you know? Okay. Ellen DeGeneres, raise your hand. Know her? Okay.
think so.
Are they related? Amber, no. Lily, no.
We got a lot of no's. Feeling good about the no.
Feeling good about no way. Hannah, sure. C. I like the bilingualness there, Ezra. Yes. It's like that's it.
That's it.
That's it. Oh, and some of the fake phones. Yes, no, yes, definitely yes. Yeah. Okay. Are they family? Yes. 14th cousins.
I think we're digging under a rock here. You're not related anymore. You can't give a kidney, you know what I'm saying?
What would be so cool? Imagine this. If you could just if there was something that, like an app on your phone, and like scan your thumbprint or something, and what if in this room you have that same kind of distance? You're so separated you
They're
couldn't
not showing
possibly
up at the
know.
same Thanksgiving meal.
Yeah,
this year,
no,
I'm saying,
no
you know?
way. That's crazy. 14
Like how
cousins.
do you even figure that out? You know,
Right, because
they must have both done genetic testing.
oh my
maybe?
gosh.
I don't know.
It's just the whole first cousin, second cousin thing
Gets a little
confusing to me.
Right,
You
are they
got
once
14th
removed? Are
cousin.
they 14 times removed? Like,
Yeah,
how's that even work?
Whatever. Hey, this game sucks. Let's keep doing it. Oh yeah, Tom Hanks, President Abraham Lincoln.
That's so far out. That's got to be a yes. 15th cousin. 15th. Let's just get into the 20s, why don't we? Yeah.
No. Yes. Ja. I don't know that language. Ezra.
Ja.
Is that a language?
Yeah.
Ja.
Ja.
Ja. Oh, it's a Y. Yeah. 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 For sure.
Distant.
Very
Play
distant
it
relatives.
safe. Yes.
You think? I don't know. I think they're brothers, actually. It's, Abraham's a little older than Tom. Lily, yes. Elliot, yes. Okay. Answer is obviously third
I can live
cousins,
with that. Okay?
4 times
Yeah.
removed.
I don't know what the 4 times.
I don't get
removed
it.
means.
Yeah, how does that? I don't know what that means. Yeah. That feels like a good one to end on. Is there a better one? Nope. Okay. Yeah. No.
Thank you for your
no.
honesty.
The bar's pretty low. Hey. Thanks for playing this week's episode of Lame Game. Hey. All right. Okay, tonight we're going to continue our conversation in family matters. And what I like about the title of this, it's kind of fun. I like wordplay. Family matters. When you would first hear the word, they've got some family matters. In that context, what do you think I'm saying?
I'm going to go with problems.
Yeah, they've got
issues.
some problems, right? And that's the context that you would hear. There's some family matters that they need to take care of. And this series definitely does look at that. And tonight we're kind of looking at that vein. But I love how you can flip it too and make it a statement. Family matters, right? Family is important. And families are all over the place. So I don't know. What was your family like growing up?
I have 3 siblings,
Okay.
all younger than me. And a pretty rambunctious group of people.
Yeah.
Loud. I have a very loud family.
I can believe it.
And my dad worked a lot, so he was gone a lot.
Okay.
And but I love him.
Yeah.
Yeah, my sister just came for a visit, and that was really great. I hadn't seen her in 5 years, so that was too long.
Yeah, that's a long
Yeah,
time.
so
It's hard to stay close over the phone or whatnot.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
kind of like this, it kind of gets old after a while. So it was really good. She and her husband, like not being able to really connect.
Yeah.
You can do it online. You can try. It works.
Better than nothing.
But
But-
when we were together, we just spent the whole time laughing and eating together. And she'd never met 4 of my children. I
Wow.
hadn't
Yeah,
met
of
her
course. Yeah.
husband. So a lot of our lives kept going, even though we didn't see each other.
Yeah.
So, but my family growing up was good.
Yeah.
I mean, dysfunctional, but I love them.
Uh-huh.
How about you? My
Yeah.
family's still dysfunctional, for the record.
It used to be, but now it's good.
Yeah, now we got it all together. No, we don't.
Yeah, no, I would say I had a great family growing up. Mom and dad together.
Yeah, my parents stayed together. My dad's deceased now.
That was a little bit less when we were growing up. There was single parent families. I think it's been an issue for a long time. But I was grateful my parents got to stay together and appeared to love each other. So there was that. My mom would take us to church occasionally. And so that was, I used to say, I don't know if this is true, because, when you kind of, you think things when you're a kid and it's like, that's the whole truth. And then you get older and you're like, I wonder if that really was true. For a long time, I would say, we would go once in a month of Sundays, which is hyperbole to say not very often. Maybe we did. I only really remember going to one church occasionally, and I don't really remember my dad ever going with us. So that was kind of the spiritual side. 2 older brothers, significantly older. And when I say that, 7 and 9 years older than me,
that's
right?
significant.
So they're just in completely different stages of life, and but I mean, we had food on the table. We had vehicles. We lived out in the country, a house that my parents built. So yeah, I would say in a lot of ways we had a good life. But that's the way it is. All right, we have fun talking. We get a little bit off track.
That's okay.
The point here is to say, can you remember a time? Most people, when they look at their family, they feel like, man, my parents are heroes. They're perfect. They've got it all together. And did that ever change for you? Was there a point in time where you recognized, certainly you still love them and all that, but was there a point where there was just a little bit of crack in the armor where you thought, wow, dad's not perfect, or mom's not exactly the hero that I always thought that they were? Can you?
Yeah, it definitely started probably junior high. Some of those things you start to, wait a minute, And then in high school, some big things. And then by the time I was in college, kind of in our family, it's too heavy to talk about in this context, but the bottom actually kind of dropped out in my family and everything fell apart. Yeah. So yeah, and it was a lot of just kind of pausing, and I had always kind of idolized my family in a probably unhealthy way, and then realized my family's not perfect, not even close.
Yeah.
So it actually, though, affected me as a parent then, because I've tried to be careful to make sure that my kids, and they may correct me on this, but which is okay.
Yeah.
That I didn't try, I didn't create that false. You want your kids to feel secure, but it's good to be wise too. That hey, parents are sinners. You know. One of my favorite things that Lisa Henderson used to say all the time, she'd say, "Don't worry, I'll pay for therapy," to her kids, because I thought that's really wise. We're as parents, you make mistakes.
You're impacting them. You can't help it.
You just can't help it. And so I have a distinct memory when I was in college of everything kind of imploding and being like, it was hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can remember a time my dad just was always he was a police officer. He was a beast. He worked so many hours.
Yeah.
He really I don't know as far as spiritual giftedness. I haven't had those conversations with him, but I think he kind of has a shepherd's heart. He just wants to protect people, and so that's what drew him into law enforcement. He always wanted to do that. And two moments connected to my dad. One, I remember exactly where we were. It was our house. We were on the patio. We were like sweeping the porch. We were outside. And I remember saying to my dad, and it's partly because I kind of wanted this to be true, and also I wanted him to be like proud of me. And so I said, "Dad, when I grow up, I want to be a police officer just like you." And I will never forget what he said to me. He stopped sweeping. He stopped. He said, "Look at me." Got my eyes, and he said, "I don't want you to be a police officer unless you absolutely are sure that is what you want to do." And went on to say that he always wanted to be a police officer, and there was nothing else for him. He knew that was his path, and he didn't want me to follow in his footsteps unless that was absolutely the way to go.
What a gift.
It really, really was, because you see a lot of families where it's like this is the family thing, and they get pulled into it whether they want to do it or not. And it was a bit of an ideal of the generation of my parents that they started to say, like, you don't do something just for the money. It's not worth it. Do it. You got to do something that you love. Yeah. And so even though, without having a lot of spiritual conversations with my dad, that was a conversation that he used in my life to mold me to where I am now. I'm getting emotional just thinking about it because that statement in my life helped me to say, as I started to go to church and I started to go to youth group, and I would sit in those environments and I'd ponder, what am I going to do? The thoughts came to me, what else could I do that would be more important to me than to spend my life loving God and loving people? I can't think of anything else that I would rather do. You're telling me that I can get paid to do that? Heck yeah. And my dad influenced that decision.
And in a way, you guys are kindred spirits because you both are servants,
Yes.
Yeah.
All of my family are servants. So my oldest military, spent most of his life in the military. My other brother is a teacher down in Salem, and so just serving people, that was kind of our family DNA. Even though there's a lot of diversity amongst us, we certainly have that in common. So it's really interesting. Another quick story about my dad, and this is the little bit of the chink in the armor, because I always saw him as the strongest, and really he was always right. As a little bit of how the house was run is Dad's way, and there wasn't any negotiation. That's how it was, right? Well, this one day he was working on his police truck. He was an Oregon State police officer, and so he and his partner were the only two guys in the area that had a four-wheel drive truck, and they were the ones that could get out to the really distant places. Anyway, so he's working on his truck, and as you know, for police officers, that's a big part of their kit. The weapons that they have, the tools that they have, everything's got to be in that vehicle. So he's working on his truck, and he's reaching through the grill of the truck, and I think he's installing a new light or something like that. But I see him out in the driveway laying on gravel, and he's got his hand through the grill, and he's working on something. And I'm just, being young, and I'm running around, and I see him down there, and well, he's down there for a long time. I keep running around, and this is a long period of time. He's still there with his hand through the grill. And after I'm going to say it was like an hour. I don't know how long it was, but in my impression, it was forever. He said, "Son, can you help me?" "Oh, sure, Dad. Come down. What do you want me to do?" And he confessed, "My hand is stuck inside the grill, and I can't get it out. And I've been trying for the longest time to get it out." And there was a little piece, I think, there of him exposing a little piece of possibly pride. But he couldn't do it himself. He needed some help. And I don't remember how we got his hand out of there, honestly. That's where the memory stops for me. But that stands out to me as a time where my dad isn't perfect. He actually needs some help sometimes, or he can make a mistake. And that kind of stood out to me. Now, I don't know if you find this to be true with your kids or your own experience. It seems like there's a period, like you said, up till about 8th grade where possibly you can't do any wrong. Maybe, who knows? Maybe that's your experience. That's my experience a little bit. And then in high school, you start to get a little bit more individual and like, clearly you're wrong on this issue, Start to kick back with the parents a little bit. And that's great that you become an individual, but for a period of time, the joke is, your parents become idiots in your eyes. Like, how could you be so dumb on this issue? This is like clearly not the way that all of my friends are thinking about this, and everybody's doing it. And so, how come you won't let me do this either? And then stereotypically, people go off and they come home and they find out that somehow during that time their parents became geniuses.
That's true. Usually after your first child, you recognize that your parents aren't as dumb as you thought they were. So, yeah.
So I'm waiting for that day. I hope Grace comes home and is like, "Hey, Dad," Yeah. Actually, we didn't have a lot of kickback with Grace, but anyway, I think that's interesting to see in a lot of other families where there's that individualism that grows.
Well, that's definitely true for me. I had to call and apologize to my mom.
Nice.
Oh yeah, I thought she was an idiot, but she wasn't. She was a smart lady, and I was probably a little overconfident on some things. So yeah.
Well, the pro and con of this kind of conversation is, the pro is you get to hear more than just, boring old me. The con is that sometimes we get off track. We get to talking so much and we're like, where are you guys going? Okay, let's get to where we're going tonight. We're talking about families, and we're talking about sometimes families, they can feel fractured. They can feel broken. And when I say that there could be a whole bunch of different views of what I mean by that. Now, certainly there are some people that their families are fractured in the worst possible way because the amount of hurt that's being done in that family is truly despicable, is really, really difficult that anybody could come out of that situation. One thing that came out to me just a few weeks ago, I was talking to a local teacher here, walking home, and he came out and we were just shooting the breeze, and he said, the school that I work for has the most amount of mandatory reporter incidents throughout the month than all of the other schools combined.
Wow.
And he said, do you know what that ratio is right now? And of course the answer is 0. Because kids aren't with teachers where they can say, hey, this kid is being hurt and somebody needs to do something about it. And he and I, standing on the sidewalk, he's a Christian, just, started kind of crying together, thinking about that how many people are being hurt right now and nobody knows about it. And so that wrecks my heart. That's one kind of family fracture, but another kind of family fracture is just because you're in the room with other people who have sinned. You don't always think and do and act the way that you should. You are a sinner. I am a sinner. We are broken people. And that alone could wreck the family, but then you also have whoever else lives in your house, they are broken too. And so things are not always ideal. I'm actually kind of feel blessed when things go right. It seems like they should go off the rails more than they stay on. But sometimes in our lives we feel like, man, okay, how can I have these good friendships with all these other people? But man, when it comes to my siblings or it comes to my parents, like this is tough. Why do I get so filled with so much emotion? I don't know your experience, but I will see students that they will really wrestle with, I have never yelled at anybody the way that I can just tear apart my own siblings.
Oh, yeah. My brother and I, we fist fought until I got married. We would fist fight.
You throw punches?
Oh, yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah. No, it was
I don't want to
terrible.
see it, but I kind of want. I kind of want to see it.
It's embarrassing to me as an adult, but it's just the way that we related to each other, you know. And actually, the last time it happened, he punched me. Well, I'll tell you what happened. He farted in my face.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds like a
So
brother thing to do.
I punched him, and he, just because we're brother and sister, he turned around and punched me back. But he was like 19 at the time.
Oh.
So
Yeah.
I got a huge welt on my arm.
Oh.
And I'll just say that was the last time my brother ever touched me.
Oh,
And
yeah.
to his defense, he
Sure.
wasn't trying to be a jerk. We were doing what we have always done. And I'd been in college, so we hadn't really had an opportunity to fight like that. But all you young men out there, don't punch your sisters anymore. You're too big. And so, yeah, it's some family. But like my immediate family now, they don't relate like that at all. There's no punching.
Yeah.
There's
Well,
no,
hopefully,
yeah.
as adults. Yeah.
But it's just interesting that I grew up in that environment.
Yeah.
But my home life now is not.
Oh,
like that
I see what you're
at
saying.
all.
Your current
Yeah,
kids,
my
not
current-
your old kids. But
Yeah, right. I am the oldest child, so I was definitely the second mother. But no, growing up, I grew up in we were very physical. We were very yellers, you
Yeah.
know. Actually, I have my mom and sister would yell at each other all the time, and we went for a visit. And Chris and I really could just blame Chris, because he's just a quiet, easygoing guy.
That's what I do too. I
Yeah.
Just blame it on Chris.
And we don't yell at each other, you know. We will get heated, but it's usually not even at each other. It's usually about
Yes.
some third thing that's been frustrating. Well, Hannah was about 6 or 7, and we were going to visit my family. And I said to my mom, I said, Mom, now listen, just be careful, because Hannah is not used to a lot of, you know, I know we're a really loud family, and she's just not used to that, you know. And, oh, yeah, no, we're not going to be fussy. So sure enough, my sister, who was 17 at the time, comes in, and the two of them are just belligerently screaming at each other, you know. And all of a sudden, Hannah just tugs on my mom's shirt. You know, my mom's in the middle of yelling at my sister. She goes, oh, what is it, sweetie? You know? And Hannah goes, Grammy, I know I'm just a little kid, but when you yell like that, and she just bursts into tears, because she hadn't really, you know,
Yeah.
experienced that. And it's
Yeah.
not that my mom and my sister hated each other. That's just how they related. And it didn't bother me, because I was used to it, you know, like I didn't even notice it. But, you know, when you're not used to that, and that's the thing I think that's so crazy, is that every family relates to each other differently. We
Yeah.
all have, you know, it's just weird how that works out. But yeah, interesting.
Did you ever see some families that you're like, man, that family's got it together? Did you ever see any of those?
Yeah, for sure. There were tons of families that I was jealous of.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I had some of those too, and now that I'm older, I wonder if every family feels like that. They're all looking at other families.
Well, and I
feel
had
like,
friends tell me that they wish that about my family, you know,
Yeah.
so I think that that's it. The grass is always greener.
Yeah.
You know, you always think, oh, they have it so together.
right.
But none of us have it together.
Now, again, we're not talking about that first level of family that we mentioned. Like,
No,
there's some
if there's
real
danger,
brokenness, and that's definitely
right.
not
If
not
there's danger,
good.
then
but
you need to speak
you know,
out.
In
Right.
general, just families just trying to figure it out. That everybody's just trying to
Just
figure it out.
Annoying families.
Yeah, you're all annoying.
Yeah.
That's the take home tonight. You're all annoying.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what we want to do is we want to get to see what God has to say about
Yeah.
families. So if you have your Bible, you can open it up on your app, or back right behind Jonathan, there's a bunch of Bibles if you want to venture back there. We are going to be in Genesis and chapter 25. We want to look at a story here. So I don't know how much you've read the Bible, but basically this is just a family heritage story. Some important people in the Bible are getting together. And so Abraham had a significant relationship with his sons, one son in particular, and the story kind of continues on with his son. And so Isaac has two boys, and the story jumps in here in verse 27. So as the boys grew up, Esau, who was one of the sons, became a skillful hunter. He was an outdoorsman, but Jacob, the other son, had a quiet temperament, preferring to stay at home. Now Isaac loved Esau because he enjoyed eating the wild game that Esau brought home, but Rebekah, his wife, loved Jacob. One day, when Jacob was cooking some stew, Esau arrived home from the wilderness. He was exhausted and hungry. And so Esau said to his brother Jacob, I'm starved. Give me some of that red stew. All right, Jacob replied, but trade me your rights as the firstborn son. Now, let's just pause there for a second. This is two brothers getting along here, and somebody else is like recounting this story. So we're probably editing some of the details, but here's what's left for us to understand is one brother's out, he's hunting, he's tired, and he's hairy, and he was called Red. That's what the passing before that, Edom. Red, you know any redheads in your life? They're very passionate people. He was maybe possibly the first redheaded passionate person. Who knows? But he comes home and he's burly and he's grumpy. And he's like, give me some of that stew, little brother. And who knows why little brother says this? But he's like, hey, sure, give me your firstborn rights for it. Now, we talked about last week how in their culture, the firstborn rights, the firstborn male child, it's just how their culture was, had a lot of gifting. They basically took over everything that the father had. All of their possessions, all of, everything, really. That was given to them. And the firstborn could decide who to give it to if they wanted to give it to anybody. They got all the rights and privileges that the father gave to them. And so here we see these two brothers. We don't see the parents in the room. We just see these brothers. And one's really hungry. And the other one says, sure, give me your birthright for the stew. And the other brother says, no way, that's ridiculous. No, that's what you would expect him to say, because that's what you should say. Like, no, that's like saying, give me your right arm. No, I'm not going to do that. That is stupid. There's no soup that's worth that. But no, he responds in verse 32. Look, I'm dying of starvation. Hyperbole, yeah. What good is my birthright to me now if I'm starving? Okay. Wow, this dude is hungry. But Jacob said, first you must swear that your birthright is mine. And so Esau swore an oath. The deepest promise that they could make, he made. And said, I give you my birthright. Now give me that soup. I hope for his sake it was the best soup ever for the cost that was there. And then Jacob gave Esau some bread and the lentil stew. Esau ate the meal and he got up and left. And a little interesting footnote here, just as we finish this passage. He showed contempt for his rights as the firstborn son. A little bit of a clue of maybe this was more than just a impromptu, I'm hungry, mom and dad aren't around, this doesn't matter. Maybe it wasn't that. Just because of that last line, he showed contempt for his firstborn rights. I don't know exactly why that's there, but here's why we're talking about this tonight. What I love about the Bible is there's so many just awesome, awesome stories. And when I think about the family that I grew up in and the family that I live in now, sometimes things, can feel really heated. I don't know how anybody else feels. I can kind of intuit, there's tension between one another, but as a parent or as a son growing up, there were times where I would say, like, these things are wrong, but the one thing that I know that is wrong is how I feel. I feel really broken. Like, I shouldn't feel these thoughts towards that person, or I wish I was a better communicator or a better husband or a better father or whatever. I wish that I could get this right. And I'm not. I don't feel like I am. I feel that brokenness. And what I love about the Bible stories is there's other families where I feel like they're not getting it right either. And I feel this camaraderie with other people who have gotten it wrong too. And it's helpful for me to see that. When you think of that story, what stands out to you?
Yeah, I actually just did a study on this. I was doing actually a study on Israel. Well, let's see, what's his name? Joseph. And Jacob is Joseph's dad, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so the thing that's interesting about that is that here you've got this dysfunctional relationship between these brothers, but Jacob is a sneaky guy, Yeah. He's looking for he's an opportunist, and he's really, like, this just wasn't, he's been waiting for an opportunity. He sees the opportunity, and he takes it, you know? And I think we do that in our families a lot. We can do that. Not every family does that, but sometimes like you said, we can have such contempt for each other that we're not looking out for each other's best interests. We're just really looking out for our own.
Yeah.
But it follows that deceit that Jacob really shows to Esau follows him in his own family lineman, because if you read further, he was deceived by his father-in-law to marry his first wife Leah, and then he marries his second wife Rachel, and then their children, there's all kinds of deceit, and it gets into the story of Joseph, you know, because Joseph is thrown in a pit by his brothers and completely, you know, almost murdered. And then, so it's just fascinating that these relationships, it's systemic, you know? So I think that that's one takeaway that we can have with each other is, you know, just making sure that the choices that we're making now, they're not just about this moment. This story isn't just about right now. You know, it plays out into the future, generations. Yeah. And so, yeah, what does that look like in your immediate family now?
Yeah, that was you said generations, that triggered. I used to be kind of afraid of this saying. The Bible in several places talks about the sins of the father are carried out for generations,
Right.
thousands of generations.
Right.
And that's like, holy cow, you know, and I think it's partly speaking to sin is really bad.
Yeah.
I used to be afraid of like, so 1,001 generations, that father's sin is like no longer affecting the family. But I think what it's saying is that sin is really big, it's really powerful, but also speaking a bit to what we as parents, we can pick up on as there's a lot of how you were raised that whether you try to or not, you parent and think a lot of the ways that you were raised in.
Well, and just as an encouragement, I really believe that we get to be, we're post-Jesus, you know? And so while I do think in the Old Testament, these generational sins, it does affect generations. And it's not that, like you said, I do think that our parents, the way that we're parented, but I think that, you know, that can, by some self-awareness and things like that. So just because your parents get a divorce doesn't mean that you're going to get a divorce.
Right.
You know, you have to make some good, healthy action toward that. Or just because your parents yelled, like in my household,
Right.
my parents were yellers, that doesn't mean that I have a house that is a yelling house,
Right.
you know? So,
Yeah.
and that's, I think, thanks to Jesus. But I do think that we can, I think it's important to remember that the choices that we make can, you know, play forward in generations in the future. But also, when we ask God for forgiveness, he tells us that he forgives us as far as the east is from the west. Our sins have been forgiven. So if you make a decision to, you know, yell at your parents, or I'm trying to think of even other things that you could, there's all kinds of sins that I don't have to go into a lot of detail. I'm sure that we could all fill in the gaps with all
Right.
kinds of things, but we just go to the Lord first and ask for forgiveness, and we can go to our family members and ask them for forgiveness as well, you know?
Yeah.
How would it have been if that had happened in this story, you know?
Right.
If Jacob had said, you know what, that was really unkind of me to try to take your birthright, you know, while you were so hungry. I should have just made you a meal. You thought, oh man, don't worry about it. I'm going to give you half of what I got anyway. You know,
Right.
I mean, like if they just had this relationship of thinking of the other person above themselves,
Yeah.
but they didn't. They were all about
Gimme.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it just gets out of control, and it just continues generationally.
Yeah.
Because they didn't stop and say, how can I do this better?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you're right. So the story goes on, and there continues to be deceit, and you know, tricks the father into blessing him, even though he's like, "Hey, prove to me that
Right.
you're my
And the
hairy
mom-
son."
The mom is in on it.
The
you know,
mom's
like
in on the whole
she's sneaking
cahoot.
Jacob in, and so Esau
It's
is
just
all
messed up.
It's just messed up.
And you go, and this is in the Bible.
Yeah.
And they're kind of this view like this is for perfect people. The thing about the Bible is there are no heroes in the Bible. There are really no good examples
No.
other than Jesus.
Right. Exactly.
And here's where you need to hear when we're talking about what in the world we're talking about tonight. Here's the thing: is this family, this messed up family? If we could go into detail of how much fractured this family really is, how messed up. I mean, this brother went out and tried to kill the other one. Like, you stole my birthright, and tried to kill him. There's all sorts of really, really messed up stuff in this family. Guess what? Jesus comes from this family. It's the reason it's in here is because they're tracing a history of God's story throughout time. And just really through this family, we see one person come up, and this was the plan all along. All of before and all after, all of humanity is broken. You and I and our families, they are fractured. But Jesus made it so that we can be forgiven, so that he can take these bad situations, as we see them in Genesis 25, and he can turn them into good situations. Let's flip over to Hebrews 11:20. This story comes up many, many years later. Somebody's recounting, hey, you remember that story from Genesis? Here in Hebrews 11:20, somebody's talking about the faith of previous families in the Bible. It says in verse 20, it was by faith that Isaac promised blessings for the futures to his sons, Jacob and Esau. It was by faith that Jacob, when he was old and dying, blessed each of Joseph's sons and bowed in worship, and he leaned on his staff. And it continues to go on, but this one verse highlights that story way back there, that when you just read it from Genesis, you think, how messed up. Then you fast forward past Jesus, and people's perspective is, this whole time, God was making it a way so that all of this stuff that was broken, that was messed up, it could be turned into a good thing.
Beauty from ashes.
Beauty from ashes, yes. And what I want you to hear is, no matter what's going on in your life, in your family's life, with siblings or whatever, God did not create that. He didn't cause that to happen in your life. That's because of you and because of your family, because you are broken. But God has the ability to turn that stuff that isn't great into something beautiful. He has that ability. And that is so comforting when we get now, you may not be feeling that pressure right now. You're like, I'm in the room with my friends and I'm hoping this will wrap up soon because I want to go play and hang out or whatever. But there are those moments where you feel really, like you're crying. Your head's in your pillow and like, man, this is messed up. This is hard. And in those moments, I hope that you can remember that Jesus is ready for you. He wants to turn those difficult times into something beautiful in your life.
It's not that he causes those things, it's not, but he takes the ugly and the broken and still can make beautiful things out of it,
When I first, when I chose this series, when I first thought about it, I was like, oh yeah, families are important. The families matter. Absolutely, families are so important. But what I love about tonight's message is we can talk about the family unit, but beyond that, we're talking about the gospel. We're talking about broken people need Jesus, and the only way for that to be fixed is through a relationship with Jesus. He's done everything that needs to be done. All we have to do is say yes. I know that I have done wrong things. I need some help. I can't do it myself. Jesus, save me from this. And then he helps us to change those things. He helps us. We don't change.
Right.
He helps us to change. And that's the gospel. That is beautiful. I hope you can hear that. All right, so as we go to here, thinking about some things that you can know. Some of it is knowledge, just knowing, hey, it's okay. Nobody has a perfect family. You can look over there, you can look over there. Wherever you look, nobody has a perfect family. Everybody's family has the ability to get better. And so you can pray for them. If they don't know Jesus, you can pray for them. You can actively get involved. You can maybe try and alleviate some things. Because Jesus is in your life, if you have a relationship with Jesus, you might be part of the answer to their pain, whether that's directly telling them about Jesus or just helping out in whatever way that you can. There's ways to get involved there. What else you think could be a good takeaway for somebody? Generally, we think in terms of know, feel, and do. What would be something that stands out to you for coming out of here? What would you want people to hear?
Yeah, I really just want to reiterate that going to the Lord in prayer, asking God how to heal any fractures that there are in your relationships with your parents or your siblings, and then really just putting putting your family before your own needs sometimes. It's
Yeah.
hard to do, especially if they're a punk a lot, you know?
Yeah.
Like if they're always in your stuff, or they're always, you know, messing with you, or maybe they're, you know, always thumping you on the back of your head or whatever, you know, there's all kinds of things we can do. But I think asking God, okay, Lord, how can I be a servant, or how can I lay down my rights for my sibling, you know, or my parents, or, you know, my parents just don't understand me, you know, those kinds of thoughts. Well, that there's some truth to that,
Yeah.
you know, but then I think the solution to that is by being humble with each other. And I'll tell you, actually, when Chris and I were first married, we had a lot of trouble in our marriage. Chris became a Christian like right before we got married. We had a kind of a tough beginning to our marriage, and there were some real problems. And what began happening was, actually, I wish I could say it was me, but it wasn't. It was Chris. He began serving me. And it would be little things, like he would get up and he would make the bed, because that's important to me. He could care less. He still actually will often do that. He, to this day, he started doing this probably 15 years ago. He makes me a cup of tea every morning. And he serves me in that way. It's a small, silly thing, but it's a way that he can serve me, and that he shows me that he loves me. And when we were having all this headbutting, and I was feeling a lot of tension, and like, you know, all of a sudden it just disarmed me. I couldn't be mad anymore because he was being nice to me.
Yeah.
And I felt it. You know what it really made me feel is, it made me feel safe. That I could be vulnerable, and then I began to be more confident in my service. I wasn't serving him because I would get something in return. I was serving him because I loved him.
Yeah.
You know, and I really feel like if I was going to give a takeaway, it would be that you're not going to win the battle of, you know, hey, me. Really, the way to win in your families is to serve your family. Find ways that you can do something kind for your sibling, like make their bed as a surprise, or help your mom make their favorite meal, or you know, play a little extra round of Legos with your brother, or you know, whatever that looks like. Just serve them. You know, be kind in that way. And I'm telling you, you'll disarm them. And or like if your mom says, hey, take out the trash, you're like, oh, I already did it, Mom. She just would be like, what?
Whoa.
You know?
What do you want?
Yeah. I just want to serve you. You know, it just, when we can disarm by serving, it changes the other person, because then they feel safe.
Yeah.
You know?
Good. Chris is a good dude.
He is a good dude.
Jesus is an even better dude.
Well, I'll tell you, he would say that. He's a punk by nature himself. But because of Christ, he is who he is. He was not a very nice guy, you know, because he didn't know the Lord.
Yeah.
And that's changed him.
I would say it would be fantastic for those of you who are reading the Bible together in your small group or just on your own. Genesis 25 is a great place to start and just jump into that. Remember the tools that we were talking about when you read your Bible was teach me about God or Jesus, myself or people, and what should I or we do. It's a great way to go through that. Or jump over to Hebrews chapter 11 is a great place. It's kind of a chapter of the Hall of Fame, you know, of faith. People who expressed really great faith through incredible difficulties, fractured times. So that's on the read side. I think you're absolutely right. The prayer piece is great. When you spend time with God, I hope you all are doing that. I hope you're doing that on your own. I would highly encourage that. It's one of the ways that you can grow. Pray for your siblings. Pray for your parents. They're not perfect. They could use your help. And honestly, I would keep that to yourself. I would just don't let them know, but just pray for your parents. Pray for your siblings. Pray biblical prayers, just things that God loves you, and pray those things for them. And then I would also take it a step further, and your application piece this week would be, as you suggested, you could do some activities with people, but I would challenge you to use your words and go to a sibling or a parent. You will not believe, if this is genuine, to go to them and tell them you love them, and that it's okay that they're not perfect, even if they don't know Jesus. I think you should do that. I would challenge you to do that. I would love to hear those stories. You can text this number or tell me personally. I would love to hear how people respond to you, saying, hey, it's okay. I'm not perfect either. We're all trying to figure this out together. Well, guys, thanks for coming tonight. As I said, we don't know what the next couple of weeks looks like, so we're going to be in communication. Until you know differently, we'll meet here next week, but some things may change. Until then, keep praying for the church, praying for each other and your families. And I'm going to pray for you as we leave tonight. God, we thank you for this time. And God, I know we were all over the place, but I am so grateful that you're such a big God, and our lives can be really distracted and filled with fear and busyness and all sorts of stuff that really shouldn't be there. I'm grateful that you're a big God, and you make yourself available to us when we seek to be close to you. You provide that. And so, God, I pray for this group in this room and online, that you would help us to grow closer to you, that our fears and the things that are not good for us, that those things would fade away, and we would just become more and more like your son, Jesus. God, I pray that you would strengthen our families, all of our families represented in this room, every single one. God, I pray that they would increasingly say no to themselves and increasingly say yes to you. God, I pray that our families would start spending time reading your word together and serving your church and the world together. God, I pray that you would increasingly fortify us as a group of people who are serious about following Jesus. And it changed the way that our families look. It changed the way that our friendships, everything that we do. God, help us to be radically different than everybody else. Help us to be like your son, Jesus. God, we pray these things in Jesus' name. And everybody said, amen. Thanks for coming, friends.